What's up, guys? If you can't tell, I just got out of the theater. Well, I just got home from the theater. Didn't just get out of the theater. From watching Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. And this will be a spoiler review. Originally, I didn't really intend to do that. Usually, I do reviews. If I'm going to do a spoiler review, I talk about non-spoiler thoughts. And then I mention spoilers later on. So I'm going to do that here still, but majority of my thoughts are going to be spoiler filled. And so just fair warning. I will let you know before I start talking spoilers though. So if you want to just hear my non-spoiler thoughts about this movie, you can watch that, and then when I talk spoilers, and you can dip out. I guess I did reviews for all the Ghostbusters movies already, so you can kind of see my thoughts on that. I was very excited about this movie because I like the Ghostbusters movies, right? Fine enough. I've never been a big fan of any of the Ghostbusters sequels that have been made. Afterlife or Ghostbusters 2 even. I like Ghostbusters 2 a lot more than I did back then, but I'm still not as crazy about it as I am the first one, as I think most people are. But Afterlife did not really excite me. I know some people really enjoyed that movie and excited people about this franchise again. Did not do that for me because it was just so much nostalgia pandering for that original Ghostbusters that it didn't really end up offering anything new for this franchise. And so this movie, from the trailers, you got different new Ghostbusters from what it looked like. You got new gadgets. You got new ghosts in the movie. And some of the news reports and announcements outside of the movie were making it sound like, okay, this movie is going to really be the Ghostbusters movie I wanted Afterlife to be, which is an expansion of the Ghostbusters franchise outside of those original movies. It's not trying to be the same plot or remake those original movies. And then I think it was the second or third trailer came out, and they just started repeating lines from the original, like, I ain't afraid no ghost. Bustin' makes me feel good. You see the library ghost come back in one of the trailer spots, whatever. And I was like, I got a little bit more worried. So, and then honestly, the reviews weren't great about this movie, and I didn't really watch any reviews. I was just seeing that some people were talking that there was not some great reviews. So I kind of went into this movie with still excited expectations, a little bit lower. That's just my perspective going into this. And I think as a Ghostbusters fan, there's still stuff I really like here. But overall, this is definitely one of the worst Ghostbusters sequels that's been made. It's not the worst installment in the franchise. This is not as bad as the 2016 Ghostbusters remake, which isn't as awful as some people make it out to be, but I'm still not a fan of that movie. But it's pretty damn close. And it might be more of a mess than that movie is, to be honest. So let me start off with the positives, and then but I'll go into spoilers for my negatives, because most of my, well, I do have some non-spoiler negatives, but for most of my negatives, it's spoilers. So again, I'll warn you when I talk spoilers. The stuff I was excited about, I got in this movie. We got new Ghostbusters in the movie doing cool stuff. You got cool gadgets in the movie. Awesome to see. Tons of new ghosts in the movie. They didn't have a lot to do, but still. The effects in this movie, with like the way they did Slimer, they combined some practical and digital effects. All that was really cool. Though I feel like it still was a little bit hard to tell. Still looked pretty CG, but they still did a good enough job that I still want to shout that out. It's something I appreciate. McKenna Grace as Phoebe is really good in this role, and she's, with all these movies, she's going to be a highlight. I know the cast does a pretty fun job for the most part. There are certain characters that did not need to be in this movie, and they were in the last movie, and that's just why they're here. But we'll get into that in a minute. Also, what they did with the character of Winston, expanding his character and making him actually, actually this rich investor buying into the Ghostbusters ideas and things like that, and it's really cool. Um, just as because I felt like that character's kind of became the joke of where like in the original Ghostbusters it's like it's like three scientists and one not scientist dude who's just kind of the black guy that's he still had out his own personality and was great, but it did feel like all right. And other thing I want to say is at the end credits they do dedicate this film to Ivan Reitman, who has since passed, which was really sweet. I appreciate that. And you know when they reused the original score for this movie, those moments felt justified and it was pretty cool. And yeah, trying to and the way that the director tried to pay homage to the real Ghostbusters cartoon with that with the villain of this movie and things like that was really cool. I think that's something more these Ghostbusters directors should embrace is actually embracing the cartoon that this because I feel like cartoon is actually better than the Ghostbusters movie in some ways, and the cartoon is people I feel like have more nostalgia for that in some ways than they do the original movie. So that's just me. But let me talk about this movie now. Actually, one more thing I want to say non spoilers. So my biggest issue with this movie, and I'll talk about this more in spoilers, is that I got to about an hour and a half through this movie, and I said, I went to the 3 o'clock show, and it started about 3:10, because of the previews and stuff. And I'm an hour and a half way through the movie. And I'm like, man, it's like 4:30. This movie's only an hour and 50 minutes. Where's the plot? And I just started to think that at a certain point where this movie just kept going and it kept introducing concepts and whatever, but there was no plot throughout this movie. And it really was like, what happened here with this movie? Spoiler talk. So, spoilers, click off now if you don't want spoilers. This movie, what the fuck? What the fuck? Just, they advertise this movie as like, oh, it's this ice age and this one ghost is coming in, taking everything over, and now all the Ghostbusters have to reassemble New York to stop them. That is like 30 minutes, maybe less of the movie. The rest of this movie is not that. I am sorry about my dogs in the background. I don't know what they're going off about, and I can't check right now. But you're watching this and you're like, God, you are taking so long with this. Like, the plot did not get moving. And part of the reason for that is there's just a bunch of characters in this movie that, why are they even here? First of all, you have Podcast, right? Podcast is just here. Like, he was a standout character in the first movie. I mean, not in the first movie, but in Afterlife, And he's just here. He doesn't do anything. I don't remember a line he said. And yeah, that was one thing. You have Finn Wolfhard's love interest character from the last movie. She did not need to be in the movie. You could just basically said like, oh, when they moved, it was over. They don't really talk, or hey, they talk over Zoom or something. She did not need to be in this movie. She had no role in this movie. There's Patton Oswalt who's advertised in the trailers. He's just a cameo, says some lines. Bill Murray, same thing. Bill Murray, and then so you have Kamal Valigiani. I'm sorry, I butchered that dude's name. He's a fun actor. He had some funny moments, but he was a big vocal of the plot, and which is nice. That character's fun, but okay. and that the old douchey mayor from the original Ghostbusters somehow is back again in that position. You're like, how the fuck did that even happen? Doesn't make any sense. So so this movie's not as bad as the nostalgia pandering in Afterlife, but it definitely has some of those same problems. Like, okay, the library ghost is just there. Some of it is okay, like the library ghost being there, whatever. You know, Bill Murray being like, yeah, Melnick's in uniform, heck yeah. Like, stuff like that's fun to see, but then there's shit like, why is the old mayor here? That's not fun nostalgia, that's just stupid, doesn't make any sense. It's just, I don't know. And there's just so many characters introduced in this movie, and I really don't get why they don't just like kill Bill Murray's character off. If he just does not want to be in these movies, stop forcing him to be here, because he's just like, all right, Dan Aykroyd's down to be in here and have some fun with it. But I don't know. I think one thing that did bug me with this movie, most of all, is just I don't understand the subplot with this ghost girl. Basically, McKenna Grace is kind of feeling out of it the whole movie, where, you know, she's being told she's just a kid. She's only 16. She's not really an adult, you know, and so she can't really be a member of the team legally, and that's kind of a good arc for her, but she meets this ghost girl and she starts to become friends with her. I almost feel like they're building up to a romance. Like when that scene where she almost becomes like a ghost girl herself, I thought they were gonna kiss, which I wouldn't actually minded, but didn't happen. And then she dies in the movie for a second, and then the ghost takes over her, and she frees the Mega God ghost. That's like the big horny ghost. I'm like, okay, like I just don't understand why the plot was this complicated with that going on. All these characters, there's just no reason for that. The best thing about these Ghostbusters movies is they're inherently simple plots. You know, you just got a bunch of scientists trying to make their business run and keep it working. And that's basically at the core of this movie too, but it's still like they add all these like convoluted things, and some of it is fun, like we are expanding the Ghostbusters universe like I want, but overall this movie is just a mess. And I recommend that if you're a Ghostbusters fan, don't skip this movie, right? I think you're gonna have a good time, you're gonna have fun with it, but it's not the best of the franchise. It has just got too much going on, and there's just no reason for it. I hope that if there is another movie, because I don't know how well this movie's going to do. I know Spring Break just started where I'm at, so I think this movie will do pretty solid. But even I showed up in my Ghostbusters costume for the 2 o'clock showing, and there was like less than 40 people in it, from what it looked like anyway. So that's not great for a big movie like this. So hopefully this movie can pick up some momentum and be the movie that, you know, a Ghostbusters franchise needs, but it's not looking great, especially since the movie itself wasn't great, and I don't really understand. I also won't be surprised if we find out that this movie was retooled in editing, there were cut scenes and stuff, because this does feel like the Amazing Spider-Man 2 of this franchise, where there's just so much shit going on in it, that there's so many random subplots, that it wouldn't be surprising if you found out certain characters were cut out, certain scenes. It just, maybe there's an extended cut on a home video. That'd be cool to see. But yeah, this movie did not turn out great, unfortunately.